This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth. And as you can tell by the title of this video, my friends, a bearish dollar has inflation headwinds coming with gale force. But this begs the question, what's this going to mean for the precious metal space? And is it time for gold and silver to shine? Well, today we're going to take a quick look at this from BNN Bloomberg. Fed should be ready for upside risks to inflation, Bullard says. The Federal Reserve should be prepared for inflation to surprise on the high end through next year, said St. Louis Fed President James Bullard. Inflation is likely to remain above the Fed's 2% goal and may surprise further to the upside, bolstered by a faster than expected economic recovery from the coronavirus pandemic, Bullard said on Monday in a virtual event hosted by the official Monetary and Financial Institutions Forum. We're in a much stronger position with respect to reopening than we would have anticipated, and inflation has come along with it, Bullard says. We have to be ready for the idea that there is upside risk to inflation and for it to go higher. And indeed, I would agree there is upside risk. There is. I do think it's going to go higher. But where I would disagree is I don't think that it's coming as a result of the economy reopening because they're easing on the restrictions on COVID-19. No, I think this is happening as a result of the central banks printing money into oblivion. And joining me on the line right now to help us understand all of this and how it affects the ebb and flows of the precious metal space is Keith Neumeier of First Mining Gold. FirstMiningGold.com is the website. Keith, thanks so much for joining us here today on Press for Truth. Now, as I said, inflation is coming, I do believe, but the Fed president here says it's as a result of the easing restrictions on the pandemic. I don't think so. I think we have to pay closer attention to the dollar, which is currently trading at its 7-year support. It had a pretty good first quarter, but I think we're into a bearish trend, a big bear move coming for the dollar. So it looks to me like inflation is here to stay. Where do you sit on the inflation debate?
Well, Dan, it's great having a chance again to be with you. It's been a while, and yeah, I'm completely on side with that trade. The U.S. dollar, got down to like the 89 range. Just literally a couple weeks ago, and went on a pretty decent rally, over 92, just last week, and then of course the metals were hit, and all the commodities were hit, and everything else, and so the Fed came out and tried to put a lid on the market, I guess, in a way, because things were getting, I suppose, overheated for their liking. But these kinds of chat that comes out of the Fed is just basically a bunch of nonsense anyways. And they can affect daily stuff, I suppose, but they can't affect the trend. And the trend is definitely lower. We're seeing a correction today, the dollar down again today, gold back up again. And but you look at June is always kind of one of these weird months. And I've said this many times. I think I tweeted it a couple of years ago on gold, the chart, and June just seems to be one of these weird months. I guess sell in May and go away, or what have you, right? But I think that the trend will continue in our favor, and I'm very bearish the dollar and very bullish gold.
Me too. And to that, being bearish on the dollar, the United States government and the central banks have really embarked on the greatest fiscal and monetary stimulus program in, I would say, the history of the world. Its deficits and balance are completely out of whack. Are you concerned about this? Or are there other things that we should be looking at in concern with this?
Well, I suppose, I'm not an American, and I don't live in the United States. So, I don't rely on the U.S. dollar for my income or whatever. So, I think Americans will be the most negatively impacted because as the currency drops, it's going to cost them more, to buy products internationally and to travel, to go on vacation and so on. So the hedge against that is owning precious metals. I think that's really the only way to go.
Well, you mentioned that the precious metals had a great year, usually in the summer. When we look back to 2020, for example, silver had its best month in July of 2020, and gold had all-time highs in August of 2020. So having said that, do you see that gold and silver still has upside potential from here?
Yeah, I specifically mentioned June as the bottom. July, is often a flat month. August actually tends to be a decent month. I guess people are anticipating the fall. The wedding season in India, and just seasonality, whatever affects metals. The central banks of the world need to do their balancing for their Federal Reserves, or their reserve um, accounts, and so on and so forth. So it just seems to be November through February is really a good time to be invested in the mining sector, and of course gold. But look, I use opportunities like this. I'm actually just bought some physical gold just yesterday, last week, on the big drop of the equity market. I'm specifically referring to the miners. I had some lowball bids in a couple of my favorite mining stocks, and I got filled. I just like, wow, it's just like, this is great. So, so I had a couple of stocks down 10-15% over a period of a couple of days, and I'm a happy buyer. So people want to sell me their panic selling. I'll be a happy buyer.
I hear you. I'm often very pleased to buy the dip. When we have these kind of corrections, it's always a fantastic opportunity to get involved. But having said that, we do have coming down the pike this Basel III regulations. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about what that is, what's coming up on, I believe it's June 28th, and just the manipulation of silver prices in general over the years.
Yeah, there's a lot of chat about this, and I don't know. I'm not sure if I even have an opinion. I don't even know if the governments are going to actually follow it anyways. They've been, this started a couple of years ago, where they actually added gold to their reserves at 100% value, because prior to that, the central banks, well, actually banks, period, couldn't include gold as their reserves. I think they had to value it at only 25%, or I forget the exact number, but then it got ramped up 100%, which is great for gold, and actually helped the gold price at that time. Going forward and looking at the effects of this Basel III, document, I'm not sure what effects it's going to have, but does it really matter? It's the governments around the globe are printing crazy amounts of money and debasing currencies continually, running up crazy amounts of debts, and so our life is getting way more expensive as a result of that. Inflation is nuts. This 5% print that happened is not even close to reality. We're seeing oil's gone up 100% in the last few months. So food prices, everything else. So the numbers that we get fed are a bunch of nonsense anyways, and it's all and we're the one who it's us that pays the price at the end of the day. And as I said earlier, the only way of getting around that is to own precious metals.
Exactly. And I think now is a good time, not only because of the current correction, but because of the current upcoming third and fourth quarter. I think there's a lot of uncertainty coming in the world. We don't know what's going on with Biden in the Middle East. We don't necessarily know what's happening with this global pandemic, whether restrictions are being eased or not. And I think a lot of people see this, and a lot of people are beginning to protect their assets, and they're going to hopefully move out of things like the dollar and into things like precious metals. So maybe we could get into First Mining Gold a little bit and talk a little bit specifically about that, because I think this is now getting into the solution-based scenarios for my audience here. This is what we need to look at moving forward before these coming calamities come. So you founded and are chair of the company First Mining Gold, and this is on top of the fact that you run First Majestic, which is probably the largest silver company in the world. I believe you guys have 4,000 employees. You have Mexican silver mines.
Close to 6,000.
6,000 now. That's huge. And when it comes to First Gold Mining, the valuation really looks attractive, judging from the fact that the market cap right now is $216 million, and you have the Spring Pole project, which has a net present value of $995 million alone. So is there a discount on shares today? I mean, as it stands now, do you believe it's trading at a fair value?
Well, Dan, you do such a good job. talking about First Mining, I probably should just shut up. But anyways, no,
Well,
look,
I do my due diligence into these things before, you know, I talk to you guys, and you guys are looking fantastic, which is why I wanted to have you on. So yeah.
well, it's great, and it's good that you do that, of course. And yes, I am. I founded First Majestic Silver. She's almost 19 years ago now, and it is one of the largest silver producers on the planet. And I came from a copper company before that, which I founded as well. And you know, I saw the valuations in the gold sector in 2014 as being just so ridiculously cheap. I was just so impelled, you know, to put together another company, and so I formed. It was called First Mining Finance at the time. We changed the name of the company a few years after that to First Mining Gold, but what we were able to do is acquire, you know, quite an interesting portfolio of gold assets. I promised shareholders at the time that if we, you know, because we bought 8 companies in 15 months. We had a $600 million market cap in the summer of 2016. And today the market cap, as you just said, is 200 and some odd million. So and I guess the reasons for that is because we've got this huge portfolio of gold projects. And I guess it's a little bit confusing for people because most people, you know, are used to buying, you know, a company that owns one asset, you know, one mine. And I've said this so many times. And but you know, when I put First Majestic together and when I put First Mining Gold together, I've always believed in multi-asset portfolios because I want to protect my investment is really what it comes down to. You know, I don't want to put all my money in one basket, in one asset. So because I'm putting my own money into these companies, right? So I'm a very large shareholder of First Mining Gold, and I seeded it, I developed it, I built it, and so on. But anyways, going back to what I was saying, you know, I promised, you know, investors at that time that if we ever sold an asset that we had bought during that downturn in the metals prices, because we were buying these assets at sub $10 an ounce in the ground. Which is pretty ridiculous. Today, you couldn't do that. You know, to build First Mining's portfolio today would probably cost, you know, 5 or, you know, who knows how much times it would have cost back then to do it. But we are successful, and we are spinning out some assets, and we're going to be paying a dividend, you know, which I'm sure we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that dividend. This is something I came across, which honestly looks like a good opportunity, and this is time sensitive. So maybe we could talk about this. What's coming on June 28th?
Yeah. Okay. Sure. So just going back a little bit. So this particular project is called Goldland, and we bought it from a private company. Well, we bought the private company which owned Goldland. This company called Treasury Metals, which is, you know, Toronto listed Canadian company, trades around 90 cents a share, and they tried buying this Goldland asset. I was opportune and I was able to grab it, and you know, I guess you know they've been discussing with us ever since that time over the last 5 years if they could somehow buy this project. Now, Goldland and Goliath, which is Treasury Metals project, are joining assets. Goliath is a more advanced project. It's going through the permitting stage. So it made a ton of sense. It's always made a ton of sense to have Goliath and Goldland merged into a single company. So Treasury owned Goliath. So we just, okay, fine. We sold Goldland to Treasury Metals, and we got a bunch of stock. So First Mining Gold, which is the company we're talking about today, I'm the chairman of that company, and we're going to dividend out 23 million shares of Treasury Metals plus 11 million warrants to our shareholders. And the proposed record date, and you know, it could change, I suppose, but it's likely not going to change. But you know, we're proposing, or we're suggesting that the record date is July 14th. So you basically have a couple of weeks to own First Mining Gold, and then these shares just show up in your account automatically. So I'm super excited about it because I'm a big shareholder of First Mining Gold. So I'm going to get all these treasury shares and treasury warrants in my account for free.
That's amazing. That is exciting. I I think people should get in before the deadline. How long does it take to get this going? Because it would be a shame for somebody to try to do it the day before and get cut off. Like how much
Yeah.
time should they be doing this before it comes?
Yeah, it's a great question, Dan. You know, normal settlements are like 2 to 3 days, so I wouldn't wait too long. And you know, the brokerage firms are all connected electronically, so so if you were to own, you know, if you were to go buy 10,000 shares or 5,000 shares or 1,000 shares, the case may be, of First Mining in the next week or two, I wouldn't wait, you know, probably past July 10th would be probably as far as I would go. And then once that settles, then yeah, these shares just show up automatically.
That's awesome. It's like an airdrop, you know, in the crypto space essentially. So that's fantastic. So I'm certain my audience is going to be very interested in that. Links are going to be located in the description below. Can you tell us where's the best URL or where people should go right now to get in on this opportunity?
Yeah, there's of course go to First Mining Gold's website. You know, that's just firstmininggold.com, and look at the PowerPoint presentation. Because First Mining's got a broad base of gold assets in Ontario and Quebec and Newfoundland, some of which have been joint ventured and others are still 100% owned. So owning First Mining is a good way to play the gold. You know, if you're a bull on gold, it's a good company to own. At least I'm biased, of course, but in my opinion, but. You know, you have 4 choices if you want to own gold. One is physical gold, and one is producing gold company. One is a developer, and one is exploration. Mm-hmm. And it's just funny that developers are always the cheapest because they're going through the permitting stage, they're going through developing, right? So, you know, it's pre-production, but it's post-exploration. So they've already got the ounces defined. Mm-hmm. And it's just a matter of getting those ounces out of the ground. So you go through permitting, you got to get all the government approvals, you got to build a mill, and that's always kind of the low part of your share price, right? And that's exactly where First Mining Gold is right now. So if you like gold, you know, the gold developers are. I personally, in my opinion, I like buying gold developers because they're always the cheapest, right? You don't have the exploration risk. Right. You can play in the exploration market if you wish, but it's a boom and bust, right? Mm-hmm. You could make 10 times your money, or you could lose 100% of your money. Right. In a developer, you're not going to lose all your money. You just have to wait, and that's what we're waiting for right now for First Mining Gold. But the bonus is you don't only own the development assets that First Mining Gold is currently developing, but you get this bonus, which is about almost a 10% dividend. So, you know, you buy the stock and you're almost buying it at a 10% discount in the market because you're getting these treasure metal shares. So go to the website and there's a calculator there actually, which is kind of cool. I actually used it the other day. So I was testing it out. So if you own, call it 10,000 shares of First Mining Gold, you just enter 10,000 shares and it spits out the number of treasury metal shares and treasury metal warrants that is going to show up in your account on July 15th. So it's pretty interesting.
That's awesome. You know, I would agree with what you said earlier. It's very important to diversify that portfolio. I like the tangibles. I like to have, you know, something that I can hold. I like the mining. I like the developing. I like the gold and the silver and a little bit of crypto. It's good to kind of spread yourself out, especially as these troubling times I feel are coming down the pike. But if we are properly prepared, we will breeze through it just fine. So once again, I want to thank you for joining us today to help us just understand the ebb and flow of the system in this crazy time of potential hyperinflation. Once again, I want to encourage people to check the links in the description below. Keith Neumeier, once again, thanks so much for talking to us today.
Yeah, and you know, see me on Twitter as well. You know, Keith_Neumeier. I'm there. I don't do a whole bunch of stuff, but feel free to follow me as well. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. I'll put that up right there on the screen so people don't miss that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Yeah, you too.
We all want truth. truth will set you free, free, free.